Okay, good afternoon or good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, all the old friends or new friends. I'm Huang Hongchang, the director of the China Culture Center in The Hague. We are now at the exhibition hall at the China Culture Center, which titled the Robert van Gulik and the Chinese Culture. So this exhibition has been opening for beginning from 17th of December last year, and it will go until the 10th of April. So this is the online workshop which we designed, and then welcome to all these friends. I think we will have some guest speaker. It's Marco, the very famous, the founder of the Judge D website, a super fan of Robert van Gulik and also Judge D. And Professor Shi Ye from Shanghai Normal University. Professor Shi Ye, hi. And she's now in Shanghai. She's in the evening. And also some, most of the students, Dutch students who study Chinese language are from SBS, from Adoptipedia, and also from Carle's College, New Haven, and mostly from the Leiden University and Delft University of Technology. So welcome. So the program will be first. I would like to invite Marianne, the moderator, and our guest curator, who has helped us to make this exhibition happen. And then she will guide the exhibition for several minutes, and then there'll be some guest speaker. It's Marco and Professor Shi Ye. Okay, so Marianne, the stage is yours. Please welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Huang. So welcome to you all. I'm Marianne. I am a granddaughter of Robert van Gulik. I am the curator of this exhibition, but mostly I am a fan and an admirer of Chinese culture and of Robert van Gulik. So I am delighted to be here with you. I'm delighted to see so many older new friends here through Zoom, but also on Facebook. It's wonderful that you're here to join us for this special journey. Indeed, today we mark the beginning of a series of talks that are dedicated to Robert van Gulik and Chinese culture, and the exhibition currently here on show, Elegant Enjoyment, so you can experience it together. So our series and our aim is to explore Van Gulik and the Chinese literati, to gain access to this source of knowledge as a source of creativity and also inspiration in the contemporary context, and also as a gateway towards deeper understanding on the cultural level between the Netherlands and China. So thanks to the Chinese Cultural Center in Den Haag here, we hope this will become a yearly rendezvous where we meet together and explore these fascinating subjects. So this program that we have is dedicated on Chinese arts, and I just want to look with you at the agenda we have, because it's very exciting that we have talks throughout the month of February, March and April. So you will see appearing on your screen the program which we have here. So we're delighted on the 25th, so later this month, we'll be welcoming Wan Qinling, the curator of the Rijksmuseum, and Dr. Ko Schuiper to speak about the seals and the calligraphy. We will also have a talk about the illustrations of Van Gulik and the sources which are at the Leiden University Library with Max Gilbert and with Professor Ling Pan. And we have a very special program which will take place, which is organized by the Royal Asian Arts Society in the Netherlands, and this will take place in April. We will have a dedicated Young Scholar Symposium on the 9th of April, and on the 10th of April we will have a cultural day in which we will show the Robert van Gulik documentary, but we'll also have dedicated talks to collecting Chinese art. So a very fascinating program, and we invite you to join us for all of these, so mark your agendas. And before we dive into the world of the fascinating literati and of Van Gulik, with a talk by Professor Shi Ye, we would also like to point your attention to the Judge D website. Marco Huisman, which is the founder of the Judge D website and a great Van Gulik enthusiast, has been running this website for over a decade, and he's here to give us some special news. So over to Marco, who will give us a little introduction speech.
Thank you, Marianne, for inviting me to say a few words here. It is an honor and a privilege for me. Robert van Gulik was a remarkable man. Neither before nor after him was there a Dutchman who dived so deeply and so intensely into classical Chinese culture. He chose a Chinese literary name for himself that sounded vaguely like his Dutch name, Gao Luo Bei. And not only did he practice his calligraphy every single day, he even developed his personal style, which experts in the field recognized as the Gao Luo Bei style. Not only did he learn to play the guqin, the ancient Chinese lute, as he preferred to call it, though it's actually a zither, he even gave many guqin concerts to raise money for charity. He carved seals, not only for himself and his wife, but also for high-ranking officials. There was just one accomplishment of the Chinese literati that he wasn't quite able to master. His good friend Slauerhoff, a famous Dutch poet, once told him in no uncertain terms that his poems were far too soft and too velvety. We get a glimpse of how he dealt with that disappointment in chapter 12 of the Chinese nail murders. There is it said of his alter ego, Judge D, that he had always been interested only in didactic poetry. Love songs he considered a waste of time, which goes to show that even this intellectual giant was only human. As some of you may know, I have dedicated more than 10 years to the Dutch website about Robert van Gulik and his Judge D novels, or rechtertieverhalen in Dutch. Several years ago, I received recognition of this work when the Dutch National Library in The Hague asked permission to archive the website as part of Dutch cultural heritage. As you can imagine, I was immensely flattered. But meanwhile, the international version, judged.info, lagged far behind. This year, I've started to work on that, to try and bring it to approximate parity with the Dutch version. Also, with the help of Arthur Yin and Zhang Ling, who is present at this meeting, I think, I'm adding a Chinese section. That should attract a new and potentially huge audience. If you have some time in the coming weeks, please do take a look. The URL is at the top of the program. I welcome your opinions, suggestions, and who knows, maybe even contributions. But remember that it's very much a work in progress. But together, we can make this a website that's worthy of that remarkable man, Robert van Gulik. Thank you very much, and back to you, Marianne.
News. So before we move on to the exhibition, we also would like to point to your attention that there is the exhibition about Robert van Gulik's collection at the Rijksmuseum. Unfortunately, because the museums are closed this month, we still invite you to have a little preview here with us before they reopen again. So we'll just go to Amsterdam and meet Wang Qingling, the curator of Chinese art, who's going to guide us through the little exhibition at the Asia Pavilion of the Rijksmuseum. Here we go.
Curator of Chinese art. Today I'm going to introduce the new display of the Chinese painting collection from Robert van Gulik. In this display, we displayed 12 paintings from his own collection, ranging from 17th to 20th centuries, including calligraphy, landscape painting, figure and portrait painting, flower and bird painting. This is a portrait painting. The sitter is Robert van Gulik's music instructor. Robert van Gulik painted this portrait painting after his guqin master passed away. The fact that Robert van Gulik paint also reflecting to his novel creation. All these illustrations in the Literati series was also painted by Robert van Gulik himself. So here we see another talent from this magnificent person.
Thank you, Qinling. So here we are back in The Hague at the Chinese Cultural Center, and I'm shortly going to walk you through the exhibition we have here. So first of all, the title, Robert van Gulik and Chinese Culture, Refined Enjoyment of Elegant Leisure. So the title actually comes from Chinese pictorial art, and it refers to the refined enjoyment of elegant leisure refers to the Chinese literati. So Chinese literati were scholar officials that enjoyed very much practice, like Van Gulik, practiced the Qin, calligraphy, seals, and we will discover more about this literati world throughout this exhibition. So Robert van Gulik was very famous as a Dutch writer, diplomat, and sinologist, and through this exhibition we bring to the fore his world of the collector and of a practitioner of Chinese arts, which are two subjects which are not being highlighted yet. So this exhibition and the activities at the Rijksmuseum and with the Royal Arts and Society in the Netherlands aim to bring this subject to the fore. So throughout the exhibition, we draw the parallel between Robert van Gulik, his alter ego Judge Dee. So Robert van Gulik is very famous for writing detective books, Judge Dee, and the world of the literati. Robert van Gulik said himself about Judge Dee and the Chinese literati that they were men of great moral strength, of intellectual power, and at the same time very refined, thoroughly conversant with Chinese arts and letters. In short, a man you would like to get to know better. Exactly, that's the way we feel. So to take you through this exhibition and to understand Robert van Gulik, it's very important to understand that as a child, Van Gulik grew up in Indonesia, and he became his passion and his love for Chinese culture began in Indonesia, where he spent most of his time in the Chinese neighborhood, studying already the Chinese calligraphy and characters, and very much immersed in that world. He was really prodigious and already at a very young age. He made his first ethnography on the Wayang puppet when he was just 11 years old, a study of more than 200 pages. And we can see that it's an 11-year-old just by the letters, the block letters in the title, but otherwise it's a thorough study on the Wayang puppet. He had a very rich career as a diplomat. He traveled throughout his life. His last post was in Tokyo as the Dutch ambassador to Japan. So throughout his life, there's a very key period, which is Chongqing, which was the wartime capital of China, which we'll talk about more with Professor Xi Ye. And also, which is very important, why it's the time where it is known that Van Gulik became more Chinese than the Chinese. So it's a time where he completely immersed himself into all Chinese things. So just to walk you through the exhibition. So as I said, this exhibition brings Van Gulik to the fore as an artist and also as a collector, next to his accomplishments also as a writer, diplomat, and a sinologist. So here we are at the first chapter, which is Van Gulik as an artist. So we're really lucky here that we have, thanks to Peter Rombout, who did a study. He studied the illustrations of Robert van Gulik's Judge Dee books. So Van Gulik wrote 17 Judge Dee books, which are very popular around the world and are a source to get to know Chinese culture better. All of the little details of the everyday lives are in it. So it's a fun way also to get to know China better. He drew his own illustrations, and here on these two walls we see those illustrations. So on top we see the illustrations which Van Gulik made for his book, so he drew them himself. and beneath we see the sources of them. So Van Gulik was an avid collector of a lot of objects, but also of books. And here we see the original sources where you can see how he draw from these sources. He got inspired by it, and he would take some of the details. If you see the table here for the banquet, he would take some of these details with drawing paper and would place them onto his own creation. So very much in a hybrid style, he would mix this Chinese style with his own unique style. So he would make for example, more details in the faces. He would add a beard to Judge D. He would really make his own interpretation and creation between East and West. So we see an example of how he worked with drawing papers here, with an original drawing which he made. And this is Judge D. And we see also how there's details that he added onto these illustrations himself. So we see the details in the coatings and all these vivid details which he brings to the fore, creating his own style. So Van Gulik was an accomplished, as we see, drawer, but also where Van Gulik is very famous for is his calligraphy, of course, which is very popular also today in China. And here we see how Van Gulik also had, it was part of his everyday. We know he practiced calligraphy every day. He had a set time for that as well. And here we can see how he practiced it even on his cards as a diplomat, on visiting cards or on invitation cards. He would recycle them and practice his own calligraphy. So here you see some examples of it. Here we have a beautiful example of his grassroots style calligraphy, which he made. And this is Guanghua, the pavilion for watching the transitoriness of life, of life. A very beautiful example of his grassroots calligraphy writing style. And underneath we have some objects from the personal collection of Van Gulik, actually by his daughter Pauline Van Gulik, who kindly lent us these pieces. And one of them is very special here, which is this rock. And as Pauline described, he found this rock in Malaysia, and he picked it up and put it on his desk, and he appropriated to become a rock where he could put his Chinese brushes. So it's a very nice example also to see that Van Gulik saw the beauty in all objects, but also saw a use of it for his Chinese activities. Here we also see a very beautiful inks, a container for putting the ink, very beautiful example which is on show here. Now we move into the chapter of the collector. So Van Gulik was a very avid collector. It was a very important part of his let's say practice. And we have some fine example here. We're very lucky is that we got on loan 3 paintings here from a collector in The Hague, Master Fay. Van Gulik has a collection of more than 500 paintings, and for him that was really the highlight of his collection. As he says, or he mentions in Chinese pictorial art, his magnus opum on Chinese art, is that one should mention the fact that the Chinese have always been much more jealous of their pictures than of their porcelain. They considered, not without reason, that painting and calligraphy represent the essence of their culture, hallowed by the association with great statesmen and scholars who made national history. So here we see a beautiful calligraphy by Ma Hong, which was the director of the Forbidden City, the Palace Museum, who Van Gulik met in Chongqing. And what it says here, it's very beautiful. I will read it out for you. It says, "A happy marriage of a man of learning and a wife from a family of sages. A fine combination of zither and lute, a lucky pair of singing and following." Isn't that beautiful? So another example we see here is of Wang Su, which is a beautiful painting and hanging scroll of a girl with a sword. And in particular, what's very interesting to note here as well is that there is the Gallo-Pace seal. So so of course on all the paintings which Van Gulik collected, we can find his seal as well as an archive where he also describes all his works. Van Gulik was a very special collector, of course, of Chinese art because one, he practiced it himself, so he had a much deeper understanding than other collectors at that time. And second of all, he was friends with them. So Ma Hong, we'll hear later also about Xu Beihong, Xi Baishe, he knew them. So he had a different relationship, much deeper relationship with these paintings. The third chapter here in the exhibition is, of course, what we know Van Gulik the best for is, of course, him as a writer. So the Judge D books, which he wrote 17 of them, translated in 28 languages around the world, which are still being read. Here we have a little library where you can consult the books. You can also look at his academic books, notably on Chinese art. And it's also a platform to dialogue, to learn more about Chinese culture. Here we also show the film of Rob Rombout on the track of Robert van Gulik, which invites you to learn more about Van Gulik through contemporary characters. And because we are here talking about the Chinese literati, we will share a segment of the film of Rob Rombout with you, which is filmed in Chongqing. And we will start now. You will see the full version of the film on the 10th of April, together with the event we're organizing with the Royal Asian Art Society in the Netherlands. But for now, here's a sneak preview. Off we go to Chongqing.
En de Chinese luid. En sluit zich aan bij een exclusieve muziekvereniging, de Heavenly Wind and Lute Association.
天风古卷呢，它最早是应该是在上个世纪的中叶裴都时期的时候啊，成立的天风琴社。那个时候就是全国的文化人，因为它作为裴都嘛，都聚集到重庆来了。当然高罗培在那个当中呢，是一个很活跃的一个参与的，应该说也是一个比较重要的一个成员了。 那个琴社呢，在那个特殊的历史时期里面，聚集了一大批文化人。高罗培他都想要尝试中国的那种读书人当中所有的项目，他都要尝。你看他写诗，他按照中国人的写诗的方式；他要写那个画画，他也按照中国人。 中国的哲学思想是一个整体的来关照一个事物，它不会孤立的看一个事物的。
Professor Wang beoefent, net als Van Gulik, de muziek, de poëzie, de schilderkunst en de kalligrafie. De Heavenly Wind and Lute Association wordt na de zogenaamde bevrijding verboden en ontbonden. De leden worden zelfs vervolgd tijdens de culturele revolutie. 70 jaar later is professor Wang een van de heroprichters van deze vereniging.
那个对琴技术哈，你那种学习也是一种娱乐。 实际上高乐培在他了解了中国文化过后，我想话，他能够喜欢中国文化，也就在于那一点。你看他所有的那个研究，都是出自于他的兴趣爱好。
Thank you. So we're back down here to the Netherlands and to our exhibition, and we move into the second part of the program today, which is a presentation by Professor Shi Ye. And we also want to bring to the attention that you can use the chat box. Lauren is here live with you, and please feel free to share any feedback you have or questions. Yeah, feel free to dialogue with us. So now we move to Professor Shi Ye, who is, we are very honored to have her with us today. So Professor Shi Ye teaches comparative literature studies at Shanghai Normal University. But what's very special about her as well is that she teaches a course for Chinese students called Robert van Gulik and Chinese Culture. So Chinese students now also delve into the world of Chinese culture through the studies of Robert van Gulik. So she is going to tell us a little bit more about herself, her background. She's going to tell us more about who the Chinese literati is, how Robert van Gulik relates to them, and she will also tell us more about van Gulik's literati friends. Over to you, Shi Ye.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Shi Ye from Shanghai Normal University, and today I will share some information about Robert van Gulik. I will use Chinese to express to give my speech. 我从2012年开始，2010年开始，我就为那个中文系的学生开设了就是博士生和硕士生开设了高洛佩与中国文化研究这门课程。那么到现在为止呢，差不多已经有10年了。那么选修和旁听的学生和老师大概已经超过了20个人，600人。
Since 2010, I have already started the research for this course, the Van Gulik and Chinese culture course, and for the MA and PhD studies. And it's almost 10 years from the time. And so far, there are in total approximately 600 students and teachers in this course.
我好像不能共享那个屏幕是吗？那么在上世纪80年代，高洛佩的迪冠小说和他研究中国性文化的专著2本专著陆续中译了。
In the 80s last century, and Gao Lopei has published his two famous books.
然后呢，他的狄公案小说引发了普通读者和学术界的关注，因为普通读者很惊奇，居然有一个荷兰人他写中国的公案小说。
And his book, Judge D, was created and was astonished by the Chinese literary cycle and also the general public, because they couldn't expect a Dutchman could write such a kind of good novel or wrote a book.
然后学术界呢也为高洛佩他开创性的研究而震动。
Also, as the literary world was astonished as well, because by his work, by his research.
然后呢，学生们对这位就是汉学家，他们非常的感兴趣。
And all the students were very interested in Van Gulik's work.
好，所以呢，我就开设了这门课，介绍他的汉学研究成果，然后呢，介绍他对传播中国文化的一个贡献，以及欧洲汉学史上独特的高洛佩现象。
That's why the reason I start this course to introduce the result of Van Gulik's sinology research to the students, and also to show the unique in his contributions in the field of European sinology.
Okay, back to you, Marianne.
Because we started with the presentation, so perhaps you can continue now. Do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, now I can share the PowerPoint
Okay,
with
great.
you.
That's really good. So let's maybe start again from the first slide. And you could just run
First
through
slide.
it. We had some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
And of course, I forgot to introduce Young Min, who is our translator here with us. Okay, so I think we went through this. So maybe we start at this slide. Yeah, the next slide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Just tell us when you, let's stay on this slide then, because you were going to tell us more about the literati. Yeah.
Yeah, literati 在中国呢，我们有一个专用的名词，就是叫士。那么士人，或者说这是一个多义词。那在今天的语境中，我们是指士农工商四民之一。
In ancient China, we have the character. In China, we have this character. 士 means literati, and in ancient China, we have divided the four categories of people: the literati, the farmer, the craftsman, and the merchant.
那中国古代人把人民分成了四类：士农工商。那士呢是四民之首，他呢泛指读书人，然后呢他们以知识来求是或者谋生。
And the literati was on the top of the category, and the literati was mostly of men who are well educated, and they want to make their careers through this way.
他们在中国社会中具有很高的地位，是推进社会进步、提升文明程度的中坚力量。
They have very high status in the Chinese society, and also they gave effort to the society and pushed society forward and making progress.
那我们还有一个名词叫做士大夫，就是 scholar official。那么士大夫呢，他是士人中出世的人，也就是做官的人。那有的时候也是指士人中德高望重啦，或者有特殊才能的人。
And there's another word called 士大夫. It means scholar official. They are a member of the bureaucratic class of the government officers, and or they are a person with high prestige.
你们来看一下这幅画上的这一位先生，他就是一个士大夫，因为他身穿官服。
As you can see on this picture, and he's a scholar official because he has the government or the government officers' clothes.
那么古代的士人除了熟读四书五经这些儒家经典以外，他们还要掌握四门艺术，那就是琴棋书画。
In the ancient China, the literati, except they have to know the 4 books and 5 classics, they also possess the 4 arts. It means the 4 arts like the Chinese chess, yes, the Chinese chess, and the Chinese chess, and the painting, the calligraphy, and also the playing the Chinese lute.
那你们来看一下这个 PPT 上，你看高洛佩他在弹琴，他在古琴，这是他的书法。另外，他也收集中国的那个名人的书画。
As you can see on the picture, you can see Van Gulik was playing Chinese lutes, and beside this, he also collects the ancient Chinese painting and calligraphies.
哈佛大学和莱顿大学的著名的教授伊维德先生，他曾经说过这样的一句话：如果高罗佩有什么野心的话，那就是他想成为一个中国士大夫。
And the famous sinologist of Harvard and Leiden University, Mr. Eidema, he used to say that if Robert van Gulik has one ambition, it's to become a Chinese scholar official.
那么正是因为这个野心，他就有了动力去开展对中国文化的一个广泛的研究。
Because of this ambition, it also gave him the motivation to do the more broad research about the Chinese culture.
那你看他研究中国秦文化，他呢每天练习中国书法，然后呢他研究中国哲学，然后中国法律学，他还写中国的公案小说、敌公案小说。
He played the Chinese flute every day, and he practiced the Chinese calligraphy, and he studied, researched Chinese philosophy, and also the legal system as well. Besides that, he also he has written a very famous book, The Judge D.
因为狄公他就是一个典型的中国士大夫。
And the Judge D himself is a scholar official.
那我们来看一下高罗佩的学术成果，这本就是他研究秦学的专著《秦道》，然后这本他研究长臂猿，然后这本是研究中国古代性文化的一些图考。
And these are some of the Van Gulik's work. As you can see, the first one is The Lord of the Chinese Flutes, and the second one is the Gibbon in China, and the third one is the sexual life in ancient China.
Yeah. 好，那么我们下面来看一下，就是高罗佩他1943年到1946年的时候，他在重庆的时候和中国士人的交往。
Now we can see that in 1943 and from 1943 to 1946, and his relationship or meeting the Chinese elite in Chongqing.
那重庆呢，在二战时期的时候，它是中国国民政府的陪都，因为国民政府呢从南京搬到了重庆，然后呢各个国家的使馆也跟着搬到了重庆，于是呢中国各界的精英都荟萃在这个地方，给高罗佩创造了一个得天独厚的与中国士人交往的这样的一个机遇。
During the Second World War, the nationalist governments has moved the capital from Nanjing to Chongqing, and the embassies of different countries also moved into this city as well. And most of the Chinese elite and celebrities, they also follow this policy and move in the city. It creates a unique opportunity for Van Gulik to meeting these people.
那这上面的照片，3张照片，这个是重庆的一个地图。然后这个呢是重庆二战时期的照片，这个是现在的重庆。
As you can see the picture, on your left side is the position of Chongqing, and on the right upper corner is the picture of Chongqing during the Second World War, and the third one is the Chongqing nowadays.
好，那么我们就是根据巴江路别诗书画册和高罗佩他收藏的一些中国士人的书画作品，以及他们的一些年谱来考证高罗佩当年在重庆和中国士人的交往。
And my research was based on the Bajang records of poems, calligraphy, and picture albums, and also other collections and diaries and memories of other people, and do the research of Van Gulik, his contact with the literatis. at the time.
那当时呢，高罗培担任荷兰驻华使馆的一等秘书。
Van Gulik was the first secretary of the Dutch embassy in China at the time.
他呢积极的参加各界的活动，比如说情界啦，然后学界啦、外交界各种活动，他都会积极的去参加。
And he was very active in participating in different kind of events where the celebrities from the political and cultural cycle came together.
那他在那个书画界，他结识的人非常的多。那其中比较著名的应该是傅抱石和徐悲鸿。
He got many friends in the literary cycle. Two of the famous one, they are the Fu Baoshi and Xu Beihong.
那我们来看这幅画，这幅画呢就是傅抱石为高罗培的情道而特别创作的一幅画。
The painting on your left side is painted by Fu Baoshi, and he painted special painting for Van Gulik because Van Gulik was very interested in the Chinese lute.
那这幅画呢，我们一看就知道是徐悲鸿的，因为徐悲鸿是以画奔马而著名的。那这幅画是徐悲鸿赠给高罗培的妻子水世芳的礼品。
And the painting on your right side, you may guess that it's painted by Xu Beihong. The painter was very known at galloping horses, and he gave this painting to Van Gulik's wife Shui Shifang.
那这些呢都是高罗培的朋友，他赠给他的一些书画作品。
And these are all the gifts from his friends, this as a gift to Van Gulik.
那高罗培还和情界的朋友交往非常的密切。那么这张照片就是高罗培夫妇1946年要离开重庆的时候，情界的友人送别的纪念照。
Van Gulik had also close contact with the members of the Heavenly Wind Lute Association, and in this picture is of the whole association, and they take the picture and give it to him as a present before they left Chongqing.
好，那么在他们回荷兰之前，1946年，他们从4月到7月，他们也在北京，高罗培一家在北京大概待了3个月不到一点时间。
Before they went back to the Netherlands in 1946, from April to July, Van Gulik stayed for approximately 3 months in Peking.
那在这个几个月的时间里，他拜访了很多的古琴界和书画界的名人。
In these 3 months, he visited different famous calligraphers or the Chinese lute players.
这张照片就是他拜访北京白云观的住持安世林。那安世林呢，是一个很好的琴家。
On this picture, you can see he was visiting the Chinese lute player An Shilin. An Shilin was a very good Chinese lute player.
那他们当年古琴的这张桌子，然后高罗培做的凳子，它现在还在。因为我几年前去参观了白云观，发现这些东西到现在为止还在那。
And a few years ago, I went to the Bayunguan temple, and as you see, the stone chairs and tables, and they are still there. Where they are on, I can still there. They are still there.
那更有意思的是，高罗培 他的狄公案小说中有一种小说叫《The Haunted Monastery》，它就是以白云观和安士林来为原型来创作的。
And more interesting is in Van Gulik's detective style fiction Judge D, there's a novel called Haunted Monastery, and this novel is based on Bayinguan and Anshilin.
那这位先生，我看很多的人应该非常的熟悉，他呢就是我们著名的书画家齐白石。
I think most of you might know this painter. He's the very famous painter 齐白石。
高罗佩在北京的时候也拜访了齐白石，齐白石呢送给了他一些书画作品，那其中就有这一幅书法作品多艺多才。
During his stay in Beijing, Van Gulik visits 齐白石, and 齐白石 gave him also his calligraphic painting works. And you can see here one of his this work is called Multiple Talents and Multiple Skills.
好，那由于时间关系，我今天就讲到这儿，谢谢大家。
And due to the time, that's why I have to stop here. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shi and Yongmin for the translation. What an interesting journey we just had into the world of the literati and into the friends of Galopé, Robert van Gulik. So we still have a little bit, I think, just time for a few questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have Marco Huismans here, Shi, myself, and of course, Professor Huang. If not, I have a few questions myself. So if you want to ask a question, you can put it on the chat box. And Lauren is here, who can also reply. So if you have any questions, feel free, because the problem is we can't get you all in with the camera because it takes a long time. So if you have a question, you can type it into the chat box. And to type into the chat box, you see it beneath on your screen in the middle. It says chat. So that's good. So I'll just leave you a few moments to think if you have any questions. In the meantime, I would also like to say that, of course, this is the beginning. This is the first introduction talk, and next session we have Koos Kuiper, who's also here with us today, and with Wang Qinling to speak about calligraphy and the seals. And after that, we have a session focused on the illustrations. And then, of course, the 9th and 10th, we have a much larger program. We hope that next month we'll be able to visit again the exhibition. So that will be the chance to go to the Rijksmuseum and also here. So we welcome you to join. I also forgot something very important, is that I also see Ming Hong here, who's we've worked very hard on this exhibition, who's done a wonderful job at designing this exhibition. So I have a question for you all. So if you want to answer, the public's also welcome to answer. You can ask them. How did so there's a question from Facebook, is how did the other Dutch diplomats accept Van Gulik's exceptional interest in Chinese arts? So how did the other Dutch diplomats react to Van Gulik's exceptional interest in Chinese art? So if somebody wants to answer the question, they can raise their hand. Otherwise, I can say something about this because I've done some research. Oh, Marco has, yeah. So we'll let Marco speak first, yeah.
Well, when I saw that question, I thought of this famous story about how people in the Chinese embassy, of the Dutch embassy in Chongqing, frowned upon his habits, coming late into the office and devoting so much time to getting to know the city and people in the city, and not working enough at the embassy itself, that the ambassador at the time called him into his office and said to Van Gulik, we are not so happy with the way you do your work. And Van Gulik reacted in a typical way, he sat down and he wrote a report about Chinese secret societies. He wrote that in a day, and the next morning he presented that report to the ambassador. And that report was so good, so well researched, and so useful to the embassy that they never bothered him again and just let him do whatever he did.
Yeah, that's a great anecdote as well. And if you look at the archives of the National Archive, you can also see in the couriers of the ambassador that the ambassador always liked to, everything that came in through letters, then he asked Galope van Gulik always to write a little thank you calligraphy or thank you remark. So they also used, they knew he had had this entrance. And also that was, of course, very valued for a great value for the Dutch embassy. And there's another question here, which is very good. And it's also, I think, a very good question for Marco. So please if we can leave Marco on, is what is the influence of Judge D series among Dutch people?
Well, I would have to make a distinction between people of my generation and people of later generations. When I speak to people of my own generation who have experienced the 60s and the 70s, most of them know Van Gulik and most of them know Literati, especially because of the fact that that Robert van Gulik wrote the Boekenweekgeschenk, the Book Week gift of 1964. He was the first well, let's say not professional author who was given that distinction. And it was also the first detective story that was published as such. So I think my generation knows him and appreciates him still. I speak with a lot of people who still read his books, reread his books like me. Among younger generations, well, not so much, I think. I may be wrong, but perhaps there are some younger participants in this seminar who can prove me wrong.
Yes, there are. I think Fan Mei is not here, but we have many others. And this is why it's important that we, thanks to China Cultural Center, wants to set up a yearly event. Also because it's such an important time to explore more and gain a deeper understanding about China, that Judge D is even more relevant today. And as we know, Van Gulik wrote Judge D for two reasons. One of them was to gain a better understanding for people outside of China towards Chinese culture, to awaken that curiosity, to dig deeper and to learn more. So we think this is something that's very relevant to promote today. So hopefully there will be more of these activities, and thanks to the Judge D website of Marco, who draws a lot of attention as well, because there's also international readers. Judge D and Van Gulik is very famous in France, for example, in America. So it's important to keep this alive for younger generations as well. Even in France, we have writers that continue their Judge D series, and the wife is the protagonist. So that's very interesting. There's two more questions before we end on a little note also about Chinese New Year, because that's coming up. Could you tell me how to find the early papers of Galope published in China? So I think that this is the question that I'll reply to you separately. And a lot of this information can also be found on the website of Marco, which is currently also now available in Chinese. So you can find that also there, and I'll contact you separately as well. Is there any writing skills of the European detective story writers in writing is Judge D? Yes. So why did Robert van Gulik leave China? The Cultural Revolution came later after he left, right? So yes, so unfortunately he couldn't go back afterwards because of the Cultural Revolution. But actually his wife, Shui Shifang, went back to China in '79. So yeah, that's was much later. But on this last note, we had one question for Xie. Who is the contemporary Van Gulik? Do we have a contemporary Van Gulik? or what? Yeah, you had a she.
我认为那个就是伊维德教授，他应该可以说是 contemporary Robert van Gulik， 因为他曾经说过，他小的时候正因为读了 Judge 这样的一个小说，他才会对中国文化感兴趣。永明，你给我翻译一下。
I think that the Professor Idemar is the contemporary van Gulik, because he has written the fiction of Van Gulik's fiction, Judge Idemar. So it makes him why he's so interested in the Chinese culture.
But you said so. It was Wild Idemar, so the famous sinologist who was Professor Emeritus from Leiden University. But what you said is just his calligraphy was maybe something that is not yet at the same level. So we know Van Gulik is also very famous for his calligraphy skills, which we all admire. How are Professor Idemar's Guqin skills? That's a good one. Shia, do you know if Professor Idemar plays the Guqin? No. So this is why we need you out there also to also. We're looking forward to the next Van Guliks, this next generation, which is so much needed. Theo Ibma, is that, so we should invite him as well. So we're looking forward. Also, this is a platform which we want to bring out as a gateway, but also to promote young sinologists and also young enthusiasts, which are doing a lot for bringing Chinese culture to the West, but also vice versa. So we see this very much as a gateway, really as a source for inspiration, knowledge, and creativity also for tomorrow. So there's an enormous amount of creativity which Van Gulik used, and hopefully that will give us all also the energy to also continue that. I think before we go, we have a last question. I'm so sorry. Robert van Gulik was a member of the Dutch Royal Social Science. It's a great honor. Is it because of his achievements and Chinese culture that he could become a member? So yes, that would be a good one. Yes. And then there's something about Christopher Schipper. Christopher Schipper is another Dutch sinologist, which is also very interesting. I think he's back in the Netherlands, also a great person to speak to. That's a good idea for our next talk. So thank you, Anthony, for putting that out. So before we finish, we want to thank you all for being here today, for joining us for this journey. We hope that you learned also and that you could travel with us. It's a difficult time at the moment, but we hope to keep you entertained also with more talks at the end of this month and next month. So we hope that we hope to see you next time. We'll also have some more close-ups, as I see there's a comment on that, which is a good one. And then I would like to pass the word to Mr. Huang. And to thank you all again for being here. If you have any comments or feedback, please do send it to us. We look forward to seeing you at all of our next events as well. And Mr. Huang would like to say a final word.
Okay, thank you, Marianne, for this moderation. It's so nice, so great. And then thank you all, Mr. Marco, and also Professor Xie, who has given a very good speech. Time is short, and then we noticed that there are many questions pop up, and so that's why we are organizing this exhibition and also the seminars. So we say that this is always a start, a gateway to introduce to young people, young Dutch people, to be interested in or involved in our exhibitions as well as the events. So okay, we would like to. We have to close this, and then we would like to say thank you for all the technicians, just like okay, the operator. Yeah, please give a shot. Yeah, it's Shirei, she's the operator. She's our colleague. And then Mr. Tao, the photographer, she's working always very hard. And taking this opportunity, I would like to say that we are celebrating the Chinese New Year, the most important festival in China. So from today on, we are going to have launch the high season to celebrate the year online. And the activities will be a series of 16 online events, starting from today, the 4th, until the 26th of February. That's the whole February. So the series of events will be included some exhibitions, Chinese traditional music and dance, puppet show, acrobatic show, Chinese cuisine, and so that will end with the Lantern Festival on 26th of February. So we have already posted some of our programs, and the English version and Dutch version will be coming soon. So please follow us through our website and also the Facebook and the Instagram and YouTube as well. So thank you very much. So taking this opportunity, I would like to say Happy Chinese New Year of Ox. Happy New Year to you all. That's the Ox. Okay. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.